I'm going to deal with it, and then we're going to go. All right, here it is. Good. So, folks, the first thing I want to talk about, CC, you know, we had mentioned some time ago that there was this tragic shooting of a 19-year-old at Luziknan. 19-year-old tragically shot by a security guard. The story was that they were both there, and the security guard claimed that the shotgun with which he was armed accidentally went off. I don't know that there's such a thing, but he said accidentally went off. He shot the young man who was there, and the big fallout because for months you didn't hear anything. Then the parents went to the media and they complained bitterly about the way the police was handling the matter. Yesterday, I think it was, I saw that I think I read it this morning, can't remember when, but the DPP has recommended a manslaughter charge against the security guard who caused this firearm to go off accidentally, as he claimed. After months, people running around, the lawyers had to get involved. After months, it's only now they decide to charge. And I want to make this point before I move on and bring Mr. Conway in. I said before, and I'm repeating it here again, in a case like that, where the security guard, they say accidentally discharged this round, causing the death of this young man, according to them, young, promising man. The company who issued this firearm to this security guard is also culpable. So we are waiting to see what action is going to be taken against the company. I don't know if there's one of the companies that Ben had ordered the firearm seized. But outside of that, the relatives should engage an attorney and seek to bring action against the company because it is negligence on their part. Because we understand, well, let me say this. I hope that the investigation into this matter dealt with that as well. What type of training this man had, who was issued with this shotgun. They gave him a shotgun. My information is that the man never had any training. He was 20 or something like that. Never had any training. They just give him the shotgun to go and work. Shotgun went off, killed somebody. The company is also responsible. The company is responsible. Then I noted over the past couple of days, we have been talking on the last program, Thursday I think it was, we mentioned the death of Sergeant Alex Vaughn, Police Sergeant Vaughn, killed since March, they say by friendly fire. And on to when we spoke last week, Thursday, we did not hear anything about the investigation. They said a constable was under close arrest, and we didn't hear anything further. Lo and behold, I saw something yesterday, I think it was in Stabrook News. Let me try to pull it up. I don't like to misquote them, you know. Something I saw where it is now said that this the DPP has returned the file. Hold on, I'm gonna get it in a short while. The DPP has returned the file for OPR to conduct an further investigation or something like that. Bear with me 1 minute, please. Student, just bear with me. Here it is. It says here, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and this is 17, which was going to be there for yesterday, on Stabrook News. The Director of Public Prosecutions has returned the file in the matter of the alleged fatal friendly shooting of Police Sergeant Alex Vaughn to the police for the Office of Professional Responsibility to conduct further investigations. Crime Chief Wendell Blannon has told the news. Vaughn was a part of a special joint services team on the hunt for prisoner escapee Akeem Wong when he was fatally shot in the area of Karau in Region 7. A police constable was under close arrest, assisting with the investigation, based on preliminary investigation that he allegedly and unintentionally fatally wounded Sergeant Vaughn on Tuesday, March the 12th, 2024. Commissioner of Police Clifton Aiken had ordered the OPR to conduct a probe to be supervised by the chairman of the Police Complaints Authority. Well, there's no chairman of the Police Complaints Authority. A post-mortem examination conducted by government pathologist Dr. Niall Singh revealed that that is Vaughn, died as a result of gunshot injury to his abdomen. Singh disclosed that there were 3 gunshot wounds. Listen to this carefully. Singh disclosed that there were 3 gunshot wounds. One caused an abrasion to his right side of his abdomen, the other an abrasion to his right leg, while the third entered through the left side of the abdomen and exited through the right side buttock. That's what it says. Now let me say this. Let me say this. For 3 gunshots to have been fired, and as they claim it was accidental, something is wrong, unless it was an automatic weapon. And they have not said, what is the weapon used, They have not said. Because I said this to you students. If it was a pistol, it was a revolver, if it was a semi-automatic weapon, then it could not have been accidental that 3 shots were fired. Let me explain. If it was automatic, well, yeah. Well, let me explain. A pistol and a revolver, we know pistol, revolver. In order for you to shoot, fire a shot, you have to squeeze and release the trigger every time you want to fire. So you squeeze, one go off, you release. You squeeze again, and next one go off. In the case of a semi-automatic weapon, something similar occurs, right? You squeeze the trigger, one shot and one shot only will fire. You release and you squeeze again, it loads itself automatically, that you call semi-automatic. You load it once, you make it ready, you squeeze the trigger, one shot fire. But every time you want to fire a shot, you have to squeeze the trigger. So if it's a semi-automatic weapon or a revolver or a pistol, and we're saying, according to the pathologists, there were 3 rounds, this can't be accident. You can't be accidental when you squeeze the trigger 3 times. If it were a automatic firearm, well then yes, because automatic simply means that once the firearm is loaded and you make it ready and you apply pressure to the trigger, the firearm continues to fire until the pressure is removed from the trigger. So again, if they're going to tell us that this was accidental, where 3 rounds fired, they have to tell us further what type of firearm was used. Because again, I say, if it's a pistol, revolver, or a semi-automatic firearm, you can't get an accidental discharge where 3 rounds are fired. And this is, look, let me say this. I used to be a firearm instructor, and I know something about guns. So when I take this to you, I want any one of them to come and to dispute that. So I don't know how you can say that Vaughn was 3 shots gone to the pathologist. 3, he described how they entered and so on. So I am saying to you, unless it was an automatic firearm that is used, it cannot be accidental. It cannot. If it's a semi-automatic pistol, revolver, or rifle, it meant that the person who fired it had to squeeze and release the trigger 3 times at least. That's assuming all of the rounds struck Vaughn. So I don't know. And then this thing what they're telling you about OPR, the funny thing, let me read back this. The Director of Public Prosecutions has returned the file in the matter of the alleged fatal friendly shooting of Police Sergeant Alex Vaughn to the police for the Office of Professional Responsibility to conduct further investigation. That is what Sabro Cruz is quoting the crime chief is saying. Now the DPP can't instruct or recommend or even advise for a specific unit, OPR, to conduct the investigation. They send it, they would have conducted the investigation, send it for legal advice. She got to send it back to the crime chief for the investigation. Is the crime chief has to decide which department, whether it's a major crime or whether it's the people in the division will conduct. The DPP can't dictate that. And this is part of the problem that we have in the police force and in Guyana. The DPP, things that she's supposed to deal with, like the Darmlal matter, the second Darmlal they're talking about, Mandel Moore usurp the authority and say no credible evidence. That is the DPP's responsibility, constitutional responsibility. But here it is now, when she has absolutely no authority to direct which police department should investigate. According to the crime chief, she sent it for the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, to investigate. And again, I ask the question, what is the makeup, what is the strength of the Office of Professional Responsibility? Because every week, once there's an incident, corruption allegation, something here, OPR investigated. And as we have seen, once these matters go to OPR for them to investigate, you don't hear anything further. You don't hear anything further on these matters. So is MAD, maximum administrative delay, and push it under that red carpet where things are piling up. Let me bring in Mr. Conway to comment on this a manslaughter charge recommended against the security guard, and this disturbing development in the Vaughn case. CC, what are your views, my brother?
Well, let me start with the security guard. And my information that he wasn't trained, he wasn't a supernumerary. So in first place, he shouldn't be carrying a gun. If you're not a supernumerary and you're in unlawful possession of arms and ammunition, and then there's it at a location like that where he went using a shotgun. They're using shotgun while about the place, and shotguns are not the appropriate weapons to be used at certain locations. And the thing is that they get something they call vicarious liability, that the security service is responsible for is liable for the conduct of his employee. Vicarious liability, they gotta come into place. And then what happened with the security service? I don't know. Because in a matter like that, if they're at fault, first thing they need to do this is to suspend them in the first instance for not more than a month, and ask the security service to just give show cause in writing why they should not be further suspended, or even if they license revoked. But I don't know what's happening. They talk about seizure of all the weapons, and if you revoke the license, all the weapons, and all those persons who were appointed supernumerary constable, you revoke their appointment. So I don't know exactly what is really taking place, or what action was done there in relation to the action against the supernumerary constable, not the supernumerary, against the guard, because he was no supernumerary constable. And then in Vaughn, we've been harping all the time. And this case is really baffling with Vaughn. There is it. They jump with breakneck speed, and they said it was unintentional. The firing was unintentional. And there it is a police operation, or a joint service operation, where the police were there. They don't have to go anywhere to give evidence. Everything is right there, unless they're hustling to cover up. Unless they're hustling for cover up. And then they're missing out a big part of it. Because according to the Police Complaints Authority Act, and I'm going to read section 12.1, it talks about supervision of investigation. This part shall apply in relation to any complaint or information that any member of the force has unlawfully caused the death of any person, or has committed any offense referred to in section 48, 49, 50, section 55 read with section 56 and 57 of the Criminal Law Offences Act, or such other offenses as may be specified by the minister. And let me look at the section 48 talks about doing bodily harm by wanton misconduct. 49, assault causing actual bodily harm. 50, unlawful wounding. 55, discharge a loaded firearm with intent. 57, felonious wounding. So according to the act, those investigations has got to be supervised by the complaints authority. And let me read section 14. It says 14.1 saying, the authority shall supervise the investigation of every complaint or information of the nature referred to in section 12. Therefore, the complaint authority has got to supervise the information, and to trigger out the investigation. The commissioner of police has got to write the complaint authority, spelling out the facts, and ask the complaint authority to investigate. And the complaint authority will supervise the investigation. And after a while, they submit the report to the commissioner of police, and also a report to the director of public prosecution. And they must take into consideration the views of the complaint authority before any decision is made. But there it is. The law is very clear in terms of the role of the police complaint authority. But these things happening, persons being killed, and other offenses listed there, and the last is saying that it must be supervised by the complaint authority. and that is not being done. I think I recall there is in a case sometime last year or thereabout where a policeman was charged for I think manslaughter, and he got off because the lie submitted that the police complaint authority did not supervise the investigation. Perhaps they're setting it up, and then we go back to Vaughn. They're saying the policeman was placed on a close arrest. If it's unintentional, why you put him on a close arrest? And is he still on the close arrest? If we didn't know what's going on, follow the law. The law made it clear that the complaint authority must supervise. Or do we have a complaint authority? Sometimes there's another story because complaint authority is on contract. So I don't know if the contract has expired and it needs to be renewed. But there's a whole lot of other things that we need. But they need to follow the law and do what it ought to do. What the law says that it must be supervised by the police complaint. And don't tell me about OPR. And be hearing that matters going to OPR. And the talk is by members of the force. They say when OPR call you, go with money and nothing gonna happen. Go with money to OPR and nothing will happen.
I mean, that's a sad commentary. Huh? That's a very, very sad commentary. I hope it is not true. But then if members of the force are saying that, one can very well understand what is going on. And then again, out of the same release, they said that the commissioner of police, well, of course, no commissioner. The commissioner of police, Clifton Akin, has ordered that the OPR to conduct a probe to be supervised by chairman of the police complaints authority. Let Mr. Conway just explain it. And let me tell you, members of the force, check the Police Complaints Authority Act, Chapter 17:02. There's no provision for chairman of the Police Complaints Authority. There is the Complaints Authority. Mr. William Ramlal, former judge, is the Complaints Authority. He's not a chairman of that body. The body carries no chairman or chairwoman or chairperson. He is the Police Complaints Authority. But one cannot expect the extended squatter to know these things and to get it right. So, but to give release and to make these statements, I find very, very unfortunate. They lack knowledge, they lack education, and they are not learning. They are not learning because, again, we told them about this before, but like everything else, they look at the messengers instead of listening to the message, and that is why they continue to do and to say all kind of nonsense. And somebody commented here about the persons who are in Vaughn relatives, and I agree. One of the students here said Vaughn relatives should seek to file civil lawsuit for wrongful death against the state. People sit back and allow these things up. You got to move with, according to the Attorney General, you have to move with breakneck speed to make sure the interests of your the deceased relatives is looked into. You have to move. So this Vaughn case, you should move to make sure you file wrongful death lawsuit against the state. The one where this 19-year-old boy we spoke about earlier, they should move to file lawsuit against the company who gave him the firearm. Something similar should be done with a case on the East Coast where you had this security guard took a AR-15 type rifle for one of his colleagues and shot and killed the young lady, the twin sister of his former girlfriend. You have to take these actions against the companies because they are they are responsible. They too can be brought to before the court to answer. So y'all don't sit back and wait. Don't sit back and wait. Move and look into your interests. I know they have lots of attorneys. We are not, but lots of attorneys are going to advise you accordingly. And similarly, for you to take the appropriate action. And then somebody asked the question here, why it is that this security guard figure was on the trigger, talk about the shotgun. Well, if he's not trained, what do you expect? We showed video here where a security guard armed with a shotgun placed the muzzle or the mouth of the shotgun on his toe, and he finger on the trigger, and then boom, the thing went off, damaging his foot. What do you expect? It is lack of training. These things show clear evidence that the people don't have training. They just give them the gun because they are more interested in getting money from the client. So if the client said they want an armed guard, they just put the gun in anybody's arm, anybody, and let them go there. Now, the question you're going to ask, as my colleague did a while ago, why, for example, a security guard guarding a restaurant or a supermarket, a Chinese supermarket, why is he armed with a shotgun? Why? You know that if something happens and the shotgun goes off, innocent people are likely to be injured. You have to look at the appropriateness of the firearm that is being given to the person to perform a specific function. But they don't care. You have people like Ropes and Ben. You have the same Ikin, the extended squatter. And well, the commanders that they have are out of their depths. They don't understand what's going on. But these are things you have to look into. Gap. So the private, the umbrella body for the private security company. All of these people should be made to get involved and to deal with these issues. Right? So that's the whole story with this here. Too many guns in the tongue and too many guns in the hands of untrained people. I read, it was yesterday, I think it was, where following this sanction, they had a meeting, I think the Guyana Gold and Guyana GGMC or the Guyana Gold Board had a meeting with some of the goldsmith. And one man complained that he applied for guns some long time and he up to now he ain't getting the gun. And that is part of the problem. People believe that a firearm is the panacea. So if you get a business or you get something, you get a firearm and all your problems solved. When in fact, they're not trained to use these firearms. They're not trained. And because they are not trained, getting a firearm is like getting a big piece of brick. That's what we used to say back in the day. If you have a firearm or you don't know how to use it, you're a danger to yourself and others. I remember a prominent America Street businessman, I ain't gonna call his name now, because you get relatives, I don't want them to be traumatized. He was a licensed firearm owner, and he had the firearm on him. And when the bandits approach him, he believed he's Clint Eastwood. He goes for the firearm. And of course, the bandits just shot and killed him. I saw a video recently, and this is said a policeman in Trinidad. He is sitting there at the table with a woman and an next man. And a thief man, a bandit came up to him, pointing a firearm at him. And he decided to draw. He decided to draw the firearm. And of course, the thief man shot him, he died. And the thief man escaped. But all of these things require training. So getting a firearm with you is not the solution to all the problem. If especially in the case of Guyana, people get firearm and they are not properly trained to use the firearm. I remember many, many years ago, I think it was in the late 70s or 80s, the Rifle Association, of which I am a member, I used to be a very active member then. We decided to hold a training program for licensed firearm owners. And that thing was so popular. We had to restrict it because of the size of the place we occupied, think Bank of Guyana, to like about 30. And from the time we advertised it, people came. We had a second session and people came because people wanted to get training. Because what happens when you're issued with a firearm license now in Guyana, you go through a very rudimentary training at the TSU there, a very rudimentary thing that shows you something that carry you or you shoot 2 rounds and that is it. Sometimes there's no requirement for when you have to renew your license and all of these things to satisfy that people are properly trained and they maintain some level of competence. So that is part of the problem you have. And I said before, and before I bring in Mr. Conway again, I'm saying it again, the private security people on the main are not properly trained. I said policemen who walk about the streets in Georgetown and in Guyana General Firearm, they are not adequately trained. Civilians who are licensed to carry firearm don't have the requisite training. Even members of the military that don't have the requisite training, and this is not knocking them. This is reality. This is reality. As I told you all, I have been involved in training and using firearm for the entire career I had in the force, and very few can dare to question my competence in the use of firearm. Very few. They can't challenge me when it comes to that. So I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. But again, I say to people like the extended squatter and Robeson and Jerry Govaya and all of them, forget about the messenger. Listen to the message. Listen to the message, and the message is that you need to make sure that people who are carrying firearms are adequately trained to use it. Not only the mechanics of it, how to squeeze and to hit a target, but also when you may lawfully fire. When you may lawfully fire. And let me bring in Mr. Conway, then we're going to move on to the main subject this morning. CC, anything else on the firearm?
Yeah, just there's a big issue in terms of the administration of the security service. According to the document that I've seen, a policy document from the police force, is that persons who are security manager of those security services, they did security manager there, must be a retired senior member of the joint services. A retired senior member of the joint services. Now we get anybody they pick up and make them security manager. Anybody who had no military training, who had no nothing, a businessman come off the road and thing and he's a security manager. So what you expect to think? If they did the head and right, if the head rotten, well then the old body is going to rotten after a while.